Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Overwatch League fan thoughts and analysis video. Today, we are going over a few things, but we're going to start off by going over what we just saw yesterday with the Grand Finals. The Grand Finals, of course, has taken place between the number 1 seeded Vancouver Titans and the number 3 seeded San Francisco Shock. I, of course, picked the San Francisco Shock to win, and boy, would you know it, the San Francisco Shock won it, and they won it easily. It was a 4-0 victory for the Shock. They looked very dominant. They made tons of switches. They had, Striker and Sinatra play. They had Rascal and Architect play, 2 maps each. It was a very, very, very dominant showing from the Shock. Wasn't even close. There were a couple maps here and there that maybe Titans could have won. Like I think Titans could have and should have won Eichenwald, but the Shock just played like the Shock and they managed to win it. But other than that, I don't think they really put up a chance. I actually think, at the end of the day, I think the NYXL series against San Francisco was a lot closer than this one we just saw. And obviously, the Atlanta Reign were the only team to beat them in this playoffs. At anything, they were the only team to take a map off of them. You know, saying even more about actually beating them. So, really, really, really good showing from the San Francisco Shock. Wasn't even close. Choi Hyobin was your Grand Finals MVP, though personally I would have picked Moth. I think Choi Hyobin also, though, played very, very well. He did a lot of things to really help his team, but I think Moth had some really, really, really good sound barriers. He had sound barriers for every gravitic flux. Every time there was a huge moment of ult usage from the Vancouver Titans, Moth had a sound barrier. Violet also played very well. He had a lot of really good coalescences and some bionades and, all that kind of stuff. But I just think at the end of the day, like the Shock, they were so good. They were so dominant. It isn't a surprise to me that they won in the way they did. They're that good of a team. They've always been that good of a team. We all knew they were that good of a team. I think most people thought the Shock were going to win. I didn't think the Titans were anywhere near as good. I think it's pretty easy, in my opinion, to look at the team and even not even question why they won. They were that good. So yeah, I think it's at this point it's just the team that was supposed to win that won. It's pretty simple. That the team that everyone thought would win won, and the team that deserved it the most won. Sinatra led this team very well, and I'm excited to see what happens for them going forward. I think they are going to be a threat going forward. They're going to be one of the most dominant teams. They have such good players. They have such a good coaching staff. It's insane to me just to think that how good they are. It's really, really, really important that the Shock managed to win this the way they did, because they, one, show that the way that they prepped last year, that they kind of planned to build for the 2019 season and it worked, is massive. And I think that that is a huge thing to take away from this, because teams like the Florida Mayhem, right, who are building for next year, teams like the Washington Justice who are building for next year, you see these teams that are making these moves not with preparation for now, preparation for the future. It's a huge thing that we're seeing now. And the Shock did it first. The Shock did it 100% successfully. They did it the perfect way they were supposed to. They did it exactly the way that they wanted to. Here we are now looking at this team, and they're looking to be a juggernaut in the future seasons. So huge, huge, huge by the San Francisco Shock. We will see, of course, how things change for them next season. Obviously, there's a few of these players at the World Cup. Super Moth and Sinatra are on the World Cup roster, so things are going to be different, I think, going forward. But we shall see how things go from here on out. But I'm not going to spend this whole video talking about the Grand Finals. Obviously, like I said, it was very one-sided. It wasn't even very close. I'm going to talk now a little bit about the Overwatch League off-season, because it is actually beginning today, which isn't that weird. because the season did just end. But usually there's a bit of like a gap between the end of the season and the start of the off season. But today, September 30th, is when the signing window opens for teams to exercise team options on existing player contracts, negotiate extensions with currently signed players, or sign players from their affiliated academy team competing in contenders. So all this really means is that today is the day that they're allowed to decide or officially decide whether or not they're going to keep players that they have on their team already on their contracts currently, or um, to bring players up from contenders. They obviously now some players are under contract for more than 1 year. So if you have a player who's under contract for 2 years or 3 years, then their contract won't run out right now. But essentially, if they have a player whose contract ends at the end of this season, today is the day that they're allowed to negotiate extending those or coming up with new contracts. Next week, October 7th, teams that have compiled or that have completed exercising or declining all existing contract options may submit free agent player contracts to the league office for approval, and then teams may also submit player trades for approval. So that all comes out next week. It's after teams have finished doing all of the stuff that they want to with and teams, that's when they can start saying, okay, officially, here's who we have on our roster. We're going to try to trade. When it says may submit free agent player contracts to league officer approval, I'm not sure if that's saying that that's when they're allowed to submit, hey, we want to pick up this player, or they're saying, hey, these are the players who we are not keeping. I think it's supposed to say that that's when they are submitting ones that they want to pick up. But I think that only means people who aren't currently in the league. Because if you see, the next thing is November 11th, the 2019 agreements officially end, and any players not under contract into the 2020 season become free agents. In order to facilitate these players signing with new teams before the initial roster deadline, those players said to become free agents in November are permitted to discuss contracts with other teams before their 2019 contracts formally expire. So what I think all it's saying is that on October 7th, teams are allowed to start signing new players. And then November 11th is when the players who are under contract for the 2019 season officially have their contracts running out. But before that, they're allowed to discuss getting signed by a team. Then you have November 15th, which is when the deadline for all teams to have a minimum of 8 players under contract comes. And the teams may sign or trade players until June 15th, 2020 at 5 p.m. Pacific. Players who were born on or before June 15th, 2002 are eligible to sign Overwatch League contracts for the 2020 season. So that is everything that you need to know about the kind of free agent period. So right now we're at the point where we're going to be seeing teams. So obviously right now I would say keep an eye out on Twitter, keep an eye out on the different social media channels. This is the point now where teams are going to start saying, hey, we've parted ways with this player, or we've signed to this player in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to month. That's when we're going to start seeing a lot of that. So October 7th, next Monday, is when teams are allowed to submit free agent player contracts for approval. So next week is when we can start seeing, hey, we've signed this player. But this week in particular is, I think, when we'll start seeing teams part ways with players. So it's going to be a bit of a precarious kind of situation right now to talk about a lot of these teams. Now, obviously, as you know, last year I did videos on every single team, all 20 teams. I talked about the rosters. I talked about what I thought about them, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to be doing that again this year. I'm not going to do it right away. I'm going to be doing that in mid-late November, like November 18th, something like that. I was going to start doing those. That's after the deadline for people to have 8 players, which means that teams will have announced a lot of their players. We're going to have seen most of the players officially announced, and I'm sure a lot of these teams aren't going to do a full roster rehaul. They're just going to do a semi-roster rehaul. I think most teams are in a position where they just need to add 1 or 2 more players in certain positions to get them into a better spot as an organization, as a team. So this is the interesting period, of course, of free agency. We're going to start seeing things kind of move very quickly. You know, the offseason itself is not very long, or the deadline before teams have to have 8 players is not very long. So we'll see stuff happen. Of course, we'll see things change. We'll see teams making a lot of different moves and changes and all that kind of stuff. We may even see some today. There may even be some by the time this video goes up that I don't even know about. So just letting everyone know that. But I want to talk about what's happening. Obviously, I just mentioned a little bit that I'm going to be doing those team specific videos in November. But obviously, there's not much else going on now. So what else is going to be coming up soon? Starting this Friday and then also on Monday, you're going to be getting some power rankings. They will be the final videos for the 2019 Overwatch League fan thoughts and analysis series. Then we obviously coming up have the Gauntlet. The Gauntlet is a contenders event. I'm going to make a video after the Gauntlet talking about the players and teams to watch, to see if players from those teams get picked up for the Overwatch League. I'm going to make that video, and that'll be the first 2020 video. That should be coming out next Friday or a week or 2 weeks from today. The whole event is kind of long, so it runs from the 8th, I believe, the 9th through the 13th of September. But it's also in South Korea, so it will maybe end by the 12th. So I don't know. We'll see. But that's what's going on with all of the Gauntlet stuff. So I'm going to talk about that. Of course, I'm going to talk about the World Cup when that comes out in November, when that takes place in November, beginning of November for that one. And then, like I said, mid to late November, I'll start talking about the all the teams. But in between that a lot of that late October, mid November period, things are going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to make videos. Don't know when I'm going to make them on. I'm just going to make them whenever. If there's something I need to talk about, if there's a huge roster change, if there's a team that has like a massive roster overhaul or something, or a team that makes some changes that are different or something like that, I will definitely talk about stuff like that. But we'll wait, and we'll get to a point eventually where we have everything figured out. But for now, we're just going to have to, of course, wait and see what is going to happen for the rest of the off season, and I'm going to follow everything very, very closely. So if you enjoyed this video, want more like it, please consider liking and subscribing. As I said, you can expect to see a set of power rankings very, very soon. So if you're excited for that, please subscribe, and that way you will know when they come. Also, comment down below your thoughts on the San Francisco Shock winning, the offseason, things you expect to see happen in the offseason, anything like that. I would love to hear your opinion down below. But that is everything that I have for you. If you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing. And I'm going to get out of here. So I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. Have a wonderful day. Yeah. Bye.